Hello, I'm Jonathan. I was going to do a video this week on why my radio has dropped in price like a stone. And I kind of still am, but actually I'm going to talk more generally about the pricing of radios, particularly on the used market. Now, there are some radios which hold their value tremendously, and I'm thinking of radios like the TS2000, the Yaesu FT847, among a few others that years upon years after their release, we take the TS2000 for instance, first released in the year 2000, still hold a pretty good value today. You know, a TS2000E often advertised at about the £700 mark. If it's at the 2000X with 23 SEMs, often around the £1,000 price mark. And for a radio that's 20 years old, I would say that's very good going. And then there's newer radios which still hold their value very well. Take, for instance, the IC7300 from ICOM. Although that's around about 5 years old now, they still hold their value based on the initial selling price. You'll often see them on the market anywhere between £650 and £800, depending on whether it's a private sale or whether it's a dealer. But when you compare that to the new price when they were first released at £1,049, that's very good. Of course, if you bought your radio more recently and paid the higher price, then you stand to lose more money. But that's the way with anything. And then there are radios which don't hold their price quite so well. And for this, I'm thinking of particularly Flex, Elecraft, even Sun SDR and Apache Labs. And the reason for those radios losing their value so much is, in my opinion, and I'm going to talk about my opinion here, the radios themselves. Let's take, for instance, an Elecraft K3 or K3S. That radio is a very good performing radio. It is very high up the Sherwood Engineering Report, and contesters absolutely love the K3S. But in order to get the feature set which would rival something from one of the main three manufacturers, I'm going to talk about Yaesu, ICOM and Kenwood here, it means bolting on extras to your radio to bring it up to the same level. Take, for instance, the base K3S. Now, in its basic configuration, that's a 10-watt radio with barely any filtering, certainly no USB connectivity. So when you're purchasing, or when you did purchase, because it's no longer available, when you did purchase the K3S, you have to add lots of extras in order to bring it up to the standard of radio that you'd expect. Of course, one of the things you do most commonly is put the 100-watt PA in it. And then also maybe add a few extra filters. If you're a keen CW operator, then you're probably going to put a CW filter in it. If you're a keen SSB operator, then you're going to put the SSB filter in. But when it comes to reselling that radio as a piece of used equipment, those options, those accessories that you purchased at the time new, don't actually add that much value to a used sale. Yes, it's nice for the next owner to know they've got the 100-watt module. Yes, it's nice for the next owner to know they've got all the filters or all the connectivity on the back. But actually, it doesn't make an awful lot of difference to the value. Now, in the case of Elecraft, you could try stripping those items out and selling them separately, and you might yield slightly better overall. But obviously, that's a bit of an effort to go to in order to claw back as much money as possible. So that's why you often see Elecraft K3s in particular, the slightly older model, going for prices which are around the £1,000 mark. Even when brand new, the new owner possibly spent maybe £3,500, maybe as much as £4,000 on that radio. So they've lost quite a lot of their value. Of course, another thing to consider is the age of your radio. So let's take, for instance, let's go back to that 7300 example. I own a 7300, which I have owned for about 4 years. Now, when new, I paid around the £1,200 mark, which is the price they were at the time. If I was to sell that radio today, I could expect to get around the £700 mark, which I think after 4 years is a very good deal for me. However, if you were to say only bought your 7300 earlier this year, and you paid the same price that I paid 4 years ago of about £1,200, and you were to sell your radio today, you're probably only going to get around £750 for your radio. Now, 4 years of difference in age for only £50 different. How can that be true? Well, you've got to consider it. If you're buying a used radio, and I'm sure at some time we all have, you're looking at the model of the radio. You're not necessarily looking at the age. Yes, you're looking at the condition, but ultimately a 7300 or any radio produced 5 years ago is the same radio as one produced 2 months ago. It's the same radio with the same performance. And the final thing to consider if you're looking to sell your radio, and maybe you're looking to trade up into something else, is whether you sell it privately or whether you trade it in with a dealer. Now, obviously, if you were to sell your radio privately, in the same respect, if you were to sell anything privately rather than through a dealer, not just ham radio, but maybe a used car, you're going to get more by selling privately. But that also comes with a caveat. If you're looking to sell through something like eBay, then obviously you've got the commission fees to pay for. Now, those fees do vary, and if you can find a weekend where they're doing the max £1 selling fees, then that's going to be an excellent deal. But those deals aren't always the case, and you might need to sell your radio sooner rather than later. Of course, that's where dealers come in. So although a dealer is not going to offer you the same amount as you would get privately, most dealers are going to offer you a fair price that they're able then to resell the radio. And ultimately, that's what we need to bear in mind. Amateur radio dealers, yes, they're there to support the hobby, but ultimately they are businesses. They are there to make money, and that's absolutely fine. Obviously, I worked for a dealer for 5.5 years. I know how the system works. I'm not going to give away any of the secrets, but there really aren't that many. But ultimately, they need to make a profit. They need to pay their overheads, and they need to pay their staff as well. Of course, when you ring up your favourite dealer and speak to your favourite member of staff, they get paid for their job. And so that's where the profit goes. So there we have it. I hope this has been of some interest. I wasn't quite sure where to go with this video, to be honest. I was completely unscripted for it. You may have been able to tell. Thank you very much if you sent me an email. The email address is questions@m0jsx.radio. So questions@m0jsx.radio. I've had a few lovely emails come in, and I'm going to do a video in the next few weeks where I'm going to answer a couple of points raised to me by email. Of course, do also get your comments in the comment section below, and I do have a look and read through all your comments and often do reply to as many as I possibly can. Until next week, 73s, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.